Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. Um, Earlier in the week, it was either Sunday or Monday, I forget which, I got up in the morning and came down to have my first cup of coffee. And by the way, I got so many comments on my last couple of videos. Thank you all for them. And one guy said, when I mentioned that my coffee was getting cold, he says, you don't have to worry about drinking coffee on your videos. A lot of people do it, and it's kind of comforting. So thank you. So for you, I will take out of my Second Amendment cup a sip because I know that I clear my throat a lot in these videos, and maybe that'll help. Saves me from having to drink cold coffee or keep running back and warming it up. Anyway, I got up. Well, I still cleared my throat. I think it's allergies. Uh, I came down, had my first cup of coffee, and turned on, checked some news and things, and then I went over. Like I said in a previous one, where I checked different videos, of some of the guys that I follow and know, and Joe Fox had one up, and his is one usually the first that I check, um, because it's just I like starting off my day like that with a cup of coffee and watching his stuff. And something surprised me. I saw he had a couple of songs up there, and and one of them was, and these were songs that probably a lot of people aren't familiar with, and so maybe I shouldn't have been surprised that Joe had them up there, but I was. One was by the Wolf Tones. Actually, they didn't write the song, but at least I don't think they did. I knew a couple of them, but anyway, doesn't matter. uh, it was called "Men Behind the Wire," and for those of you who may not be aware of what that means, it was about the political prisoners in the north of Ireland, and I knew some of those guys, some of the guys that the song was about, the guys behind the wire. It was about IRA prisoners. Uh, they were put in prison, many of them in a place called Long Kesh. They called the Kesh. The Brits called it Maze, for political and other things. If you don't know, oh, and the other one, and it occurred to me that the last time that I had heard that song, probably because I live a much different life now. The last time I think I heard that song, I was in the Felons Club in Belfast, and the if you're not familiar with that, which probably most of you are not, it's an Irish Republican bar in Belfast, um, and I think maybe I will tell some IRA stories over on Patreon, because there's some very good lessons in them that apply to what we're going through in our country today. And before anybody gets all upset about it, I hope that you won't. I encourage you not to. I encourage you, if that kind of got you back up, have an open mind and listen to what I say in the coming things. The funny thing was, well, I think I'm going to come back around to this. Um, and the second song was "Zombie" by the Cranberries, and that was about what's called the Troubles. If you don't know much about it, it would take me a long time to explain it. I used to give lectures on it, on Irish history and all that, and it would take me an hour to just scratch the surface. But it's both fascinating and instructive, especially for our times here. And so I encourage you, wiki it, and there's a lot of good books out there. And there are. The funny thing is, well, I'm sorry. I'm going to come back to that again because I'm going to come back to how the guys in the Kesh, the guys from the Republican side and the guys from the Loyalist side, and many people, if you hear about terrorism or so-called terrorism in the north of Ireland, and there's a reason that I say the north of Ireland instead of Northern Ireland, is uh, if I just lost my train of thought. But anyway, what I was saying, oh yeah, I know what I was saying. Many people, when they hear about the violence, they always associate it with the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, or INLA, which is it's an offshoot, and then there are different versions of the IRA, but they rarely hear about the other side. And there were paras on the other side too, paramilitaries on the other side, the UDF the UDA and the UVF, which stands for Ulster Defense Association, and the Ulster Volunteer Force. And those were organizations, paramilitary organizations, from a loyalist standpoint. Okay, I'm not getting into any more of that right now. I might over on the other, but like I said, I used to give lectures on this, and it takes forever. So dig into it yourself. But it reminded me, I hope that sun coming out isn't causing a glare. Maybe it makes me look like I have a halo. That would be nice. Your sainted mother always wanted me to have a halo. It reminded me of something that applies to today here in our country, and that's this issue of flags. This business about getting rid of all the Confederate flags and monuments, and now it's going beyond that. It's going beyond that to Columbus and Roosevelt and everyone. I mean, where does it stop, right? And it made me think of a video that I've been wanting to make for a long time, but now this has come to such a head that I think it's particularly applicable now. I used to belong to a couple of organizations that involved themselves in the situation in Ireland and the Loyalist Republican, Catholic Protestant. People like to wrap it up in the Catholic Protestant because sectarianism, just like race, is one of the easiest way to get people to hate each other is use religion or race. And if you're dealing with enough ignorant people, you can get them to follow their hatred down whatever road you want to lead them. But we were involved in a couple of organizations that were concerned with that, and I might tell some stories about that over on Patreon at a later time. I'll have to think about it. One of those, and Kelly got to be on the board of directors of one of them, and it was one called Children for Peace in Ireland. And what that group did, it was organized. It was started by some friends of mine, and it was an excellent program. What it did was every summer we raised money and all sorts of things. Then every summer we brought over a bunch of kids from Belfast and Derry, which you may have heard referred to as Londonderry. Derry and Belfast in the north of Ireland, half Catholic and half Protestant, and brought them over here to become friends. Most of them I had never met a person of the other persuasion, unless was yelling or throwing a rock at them across the street. And they both thought the other side had been demonized to both sides, and so we would bring them over here and this group and put them with host families and let them see America, see how we all get along here. Good thing we didn't bring them this summer. And let them get a taste of what's over here and talk, and let them meet through a series. They were over for a couple of weeks, and we'd have barbecues and skating parties and shopping, and we'd take the boys somewhere and take the girls somewhere else. Let them get their hair done, and I forget what we took the boys to do, and let them meet each other, and a lot of them went home friends. Now, over in Belfast and Derry, they have neighborhoods that they stay within. A Catholic does not go into a Protestant neighborhood, and a Protestant does not go into a Catholic neighborhood. And if they did, it can get you killed. Okay, there was a young boy whose name I'm ashamed that I've forgotten. I used to know it. Young 15-year-old boy walked into a pizza place, and it turned out to be the wrong sectarian place, and I think whether they ID'd him by the football jersey he was wearing or whatever, they threw a gang of the other side. It doesn't matter which side. A gang of the other side threw a wire around his neck and drug him down the street until he died. 15 years old, went in to get a pizza. That's how tough things were over there. I could go into a lot more detail, but that's not the important thing for this video. When you went, and everybody knew where those neighborhoods were. And I can see right now, I'm going to spin off a whole lot of other videos, I think, on this over on Patreon. I'm not going to put it here because I just don't want to put up with some, I know some of the comments that I'm going to get from people, and I don't care. And if you make any rude comments or inflammatory comments or insulting comments, it's just going to get you bounced off. So, and I know that the vast majority of us here are good folks, but that one little one that's going to troll around, no, it's not going to work here, so don't even do it. But I'm going to put it over there on Patreon just so I don't have to keep checking here and going, I wonder who put on a hateful comment, you know. But anyway, even though everybody knew where the neighborhoods were, you could tell because the curbs and the utility poles were painted with the colors of that particular persuasion. You'd have green, white, and orange for the Republican areas, the Catholic areas, and you'd have red, white, and blue for the Loyalist or the Protestant areas. And that was pretty much a way that that was their colors. Yeah, that's how they established this is our area, this is our turf. Stay out of it, or bad things going to happen. And plenty of bad things did happen. The authorities got to the point to where they were going to outlaw the showing of colors because they said, and over there they call them securocrats. If you want to see what America had become, go to the north of Ireland, or what people call Northern Ireland. Go to Belfast, and you will see what this country can become if we don't stop it. Anyway, the security forces, the government, made the people so fearful of each other and hateful towards each other, making each side think that the other side was the enemy. And of course, we know better, right? That they were going to ban the showing of their colors. Well, over there, a lot of the community things are run by community centers. And every neighborhood has a community center, and this is where pretty much everything happens. And a couple of the guys who I know, they come up with a different idea. They say, a kid could get killed carrying the wrong flag down the wrong street. They said, well, let's come at this because each side would say, well, their flag means hate, and they hate us, and they want to kill us, and they think they're better than us, and it's superiority over us, and all like this, and that's what their flag means, and I hate them, and they shouldn't be allowed to fly their flag, and all that. Interesting how flags can have that effect, and I address that in my books. Anyway, these guys had different ideas, and they said instead of outlawing the flags, we're going to organize a get-together with kids from both sides, and we would like them to come and bring their flags and explain what their flags mean to them. Well, they came, and the authorities were against that. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be a bloodbath. This is going to be the start of... it's going to be another Bloody Sunday. And, I should say, I happen to be wearing my Bloody Sunday t-shirt. Hadn't realized that until I came out here. But anyway, if you don't know anything about Bloody Sunday, I'll talk about that also on Patreon. If you don't know any more than what you heard on the U2 song, which I can't stand U2. Sorry, I hope that didn't offend anybody. I know they have a lot more fans than I do. I just don't. It's not my cup of tea. But anyway, the authorities were just certain that these kids bringing their flags was going to start it up. Well, the funny thing happened. These kids brought their flags in, and they took turns standing up and explaining what their flags meant to them. And you know what none of them said? None of them said that it meant that they hated anyone. They explained that their flags meant something about their heritage, about their history, why they were proud of those flags. And they also shared what they thought the other side's flags meant. And you know what? They were wrong. When they heard the other side explain what their flag actually meant, it was an eye-opening experience to them. It shook a lot of them to their core. All of a sudden, guess what? This symbol that they had been taught to hate, this symbol of hatred, had been removed. It wasn't at all what they thought. They had been dedicated to an idea founded in ignorance. Does that sound familiar? It sounds real familiar, doesn't it? The upshot of this is, after a number of years of this program, one of the guys, a friend of mine who ran that organization, told me that he was talking to a ranking officer of the PSNI, which is the Police Service of Northern Ireland. And the officer was explaining to him how important this program had been to bringing the communities together. And he said that he had stopped a young man who was bouncing a soccer ball. And he had stopped him because he was crossing the street that went from one area to the other, from the Catholic area to the Protestant area. And he stopped him because anytime they saw somebody going from one area to the other, they'd stop him because they figured it was either going to be a shooting or something. And they stopped this kid, and they knew the kid, they know everybody. And they said, "Where are you going?" And the officer said this kid said something that just amazed him. And that was, "I'm going to play with my friends." That brought a little tear to my eye there, remembering that. From hatred based in misunderstanding and ignorance to friendship as a result of understanding and knowledge. It's what's happened over there. We're going through the same stuff here. You know, the lesson that came out of that is, you don't get to tell me what my flag means. I'll tell you. And it means what I say it does. All across this world, people hate the American flag. To them, it's a sign of oppression and one thing or another, and I'm not going to argue that point. Anybody out there want to take down the American flag? I know these horses patoots that are rioting all over the place want to. How about Americans? How about people who should know better? Anybody want to take down the American flag? Do you know what it stands for? Is that why you want to keep it up? Do you know what the Confederate flag means? Do you know what it stands for? Or have you just swallowed whole what people who don't know have told you? An ignorant people is easily led. Our founders knew that only an educated and informed citizenry could function under the form of government they created. And toward that end, they created the First Amendment, which guaranteed a free press. Probably never imagining that so-called free press would become the instrument of coordinated propaganda to create the kind of uninformed hatred that is causing the problems we have now. I'm going to do another one on getting ready for the fight. It'll come up in the next day or two. But I hope that everybody thinks about this for a minute. A lot of people, when the people who are against you are operating from a foundation of ignorance, are you just going to roll over? Because those who are willing to roll over deserve what they get. So remember, don't let other people, we cannot let other people dictate the meaning of our flags, symbols, positions, whatever. It's up to us to speak up, to explain, stand up, and defend the things that we believe in. And that's not hatred. Okay. I think I'm going to leave it there. Wish you all a happy Independence Day. This is the 4th of July. Every 4th of July I go out there and I will, as I run into people, I'll ask them, do you know what the meaning of this day is? Most of them won't know. They won't even know what the real name of it is. They won't know. And they'll laugh it off and chuckle it off and I just never good at history and things like that. And you know what I don't do? I kind of talked about this on another one. I don't laugh with them. I don't chuckle it off with them and go, oh, that's okay. I know, I hold them to it. I said, that's sad that you don't know. You have an opinion about what's going on in our country, and then you don't know. Anyway, that's my way. I don't know if it's your way or not. But whatever your way is, enjoy this Independence Day in the way you want to the extent that you want to. I think there's a different feel this year than others. Good for us to reflect on that feel. And I'm not even going to make the sign-off that I usually do, because we know we need to be preparing, right? We need to be preparing for what comes next, because the next is coming. Okay. You all have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.